Hi, I'm Rob.
I'm Tim, and we are
All school gamekeepers.
all editions, all the time, D&D. So, guys, tonight I wanted to talk to you about putting the B in BECMI, which is Basic, Expert, Companion, Masters, and Immortal sets. The B, which is the basics, we're going to talk about the Tom Moldvay edition of the D&D set. This is what got us started, and this is a very nostalgic thing for us, and I figured that you would like to know a few things about it. It's going to be sort of a review and a trip down memory lane for us two old farts. So, first thing I wanted to talk about was the box. I mean, it came in a pinkish border that said Dungeons and Dragons, the original fantasy role-playing game for 3 or more adults, ages 10 and up. Well, I was about 12 when I started playing this in 7th grade, and I think I was 12, I'm not quite sure, but it was 7th grade, and I was hyped. I went and bought this at a local bookstore, Majericks in South Bend, Indiana. And it comes with a set of dice, which this set I have incorporated the dice into my gumball machine of dice over here to my right, which you probably can't see, but this set was the thing that, man, I look forward to getting this for like 2 weeks. And it came with the basic rule set. This is pretty ratty by now. And it was about 65 pages, 64 pages of black and white artwork, rules, and fun. It had 3 holes for putting in a 3-ring binder. I don't know anybody that ever did that, but I know I didn't. It came with the module B2, Keep on the Borderlands. And when I got it, I was thinking, what? There's a B1? Why would you have a B2 and not a B1, you know? And then find out it was In Search of the Unknown. And I was like, ooh, In Search of the Unknown. As a kid, I was like, well, I didn't know a lot. But I was really happy to get it, and we'll talk more about this module here in a bit. And then it came with the Gateway to Adventure, TSR Hobbies, 1981. And this had all kinds of stuff to drool over. The expert set. You know, the module Keep on the Borderlands, In Search of the Unknown, it talked about it. Palace of the Silver Princess, which was B3. That was the only other module of the B series that I owned. Oh, the advanced books, Player's Handbook, DM's Guide, the DM screen. I had no idea what a DM screen was when I was at 11 years old. So, and all these other modules. And then the board games, Dungeon and Divine Right. I seen Dungeon as a kid, but I never seen any of the other games. A friend of mine had Gamma World and Fight in the Skies, but it was just something I never got to play. But anyway, it comes with this neat little catalog that, as a kid, we drooled over. So, and this retailed at Circus World, this copy for $11.97. So, you know, man, you could have fun for $12 back in the 80s, and it started one hell of a lifestyle. So, Rob, what was your most memorable thing about let's say the adventure, or not the adventure, but the rule set, the red book? I mean, I know what my things were in this, but what was most memorable for you for this?
Well, looking back, when you start playing old, newer editions, it was that the classes were already defined what you were, what kind of race you were, what you were doing. So
Right.
You picked that race or you picked that character class. That's what you were stuck with.
So, like, if you wanted to play a halfling, you were just a halfling.
You're a halfling, and what it was, the halflings were small warriors.
Small warriors.
They
Okay.
couldn't use large weapons, but they had the best saving throws and they had bonus to hit.
Okay. I just I played a fighter and his name was Garf, Garf, and it was my first character.
Yeah.
And
I remember using some of Lord of the Rings names, and
yep.
I really didn't know anything much about Lord of the Rings at that time, or The Hobbit, and Gandalf.
I used Gandalf for
Elrod,
my first magic user.
and Elrod and stuff, and and that's what later on I thought, okay, these are guys from The Hobbit, and I know what I was talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah, I had an elf named Elrod,
Yeah.
and he didn't last too long. He got dead. So, but my most memorable thing about this book, which struck people, I mean, may strike people odd, is the hit charts for combat. Was trying to the monster attacks. You had to look on this chart. So if you had a 1+1 hit dice like a hobgoblin, he was 1+2, and if you needed to hit a certain armor class, you would just follow it across this chart. And I was, as a kid, I was like, oh my god, I got to keep looking at this thing every time I roll a different monster. And that's where THAC0 came in really.
Yeah, second edition.
In second edition, it reduced or got rid of this chart. I mean, after a while of using the chart, you knew which creatures, what they could hit on certain characters. You would know it, but every time a new character come up or a new creature come up, you had to look at this chart. And that was the thing that in the saving throw chart, it told you when you're at what level and class, and you had to figure out what it would be, and you had to beat that number. That was the most memorable thing for this book, for me. You know, but artwork-wise, for me, was this Errol Otis artwork here, because where he signed his name on this potion bottle, I always thought it was a light can of shave cream. For some reason, I always thought that was a can of shaving cream, and I was like, what?
Yeah, you were a lot more knowledgeable about the artist, and
You know,
I never paid attention to the artist's name. I just looked at, all right, it's cool.
you know, I was always a big art fan because I loved comic books as a kid, and it was just a thing. So, what artwork in this book was that stuck out to you, though? That, I mean,
Well, basically, they went on the covers. About the only color.
okay,
It's
the green dragon
Green
and the
Dragon. You got the magic user
and the warrior.
and the warrior with his spear and shield. I mean, it just seemed like just the covers were the stuff that were the cools and had the
Okay,
coloring.
that's what I mean. That's what you've seen right here on the box. It was like, oh, awesome. And I always looked at this like, man, that fighter's going to have to get in the water to get his spear back. You know, I was always thinking some really stupid stuff back
Where's
then.
his helpers at too? There's only two of them. They're not gonna be able to handle that thing. I don't
Yeah,
think
because
so.
a green dragon in this book was, I believe, it had a cloud of breath weapon, and its hit dice was 8+ or 8 asterisk asterisk. So it got special attacks, but 8 hit dice times 8. It had a max or had minimum of 64 hit points. So it would have 64 hit points, and a fighter in the basic. This is the basic set, so you would assume that this is the basic. So this would
He
be.
had a dice 8 for their hit dice also.
But he would only be maximum 3rd level, and she would only be maximum 3rd level. So you're sending 6 levels against an 8 that has special attacks.
So hopefully there's somebody more off the picture here that's going to be helping out.
It's going to be a total party kill.
Yeah.
Or TPK.
But they're not, and that's the coolest art.
Okay.
Is the covers that they put on.
You know.
Everything inside is black and white basically, so it's not colored.
And I had an uncle when I was younger. He's still alive. But he's seen this logo here. Oh, it looks like the Procter & Gamble logo. You know, they're devil worshippers. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not in it for the devil worshiping, you know.
Oh, yeah. Look how crazy that stuff was back in the 80s.
Yeah, the satanic panic.
Everybody thought it was such satanic, and, I remember the first Dungeons & Dragons movie they made. It really wasn't about Dungeons & Dragons. It's about these young people going down into a cave and role playing, and I think they got lost.
Oh, Mazes and Monsters with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was kind of funny. And I mean, as a kid, I'm like, man, that's not how you play D&D. You know, it's like, oh, that's not how we were playing D&D. We didn't have no good caves to go in.
Yeah, you had all the religious figures trying to ban Dungeons & Dragons.
Right. The second thing is the module Keep on a Borderlands B2. I remember going through this with Garth and Cleaver. Cleaver was the DM's character because we started out with this other kid DMing the Caves of Chaos. He did like the first A, B, and C caves. We went through them in that order, and that was on a Friday night. And then Saturday, Terry and I finished the rest of it. I played both of his characters. and we had went through it, got all the treasure, and then we're going back to the keep, and I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do here? He's like, whatever you want. I'm like, oh, well, it's fun rolling dice. So I started attacking the guards. And I was like, I killed the first guard, and the second guard killed me, and I'm like, well, what do we do now? He goes, you roll up a new character. And I'm like, well, that sucked. I had all this stuff, and the XP that I had was going to get was enough to take me to like 3rd level. And now, I mean, it's kind of sucked. It's like I didn't get, I mean, I would have been physically capable of knowing how to swing my sword better and have more hit points. But because we hadn't rested, we couldn't get XP. That was the rules for him back then, or that was his rules as the DM. So, but my most memorable thing was the Minotaur Cave. And the artwork for it in here, it's in here somewhere. The Minotaur, this is the second, at least second printing, with the Minotaur with the chainmail shirt and the spear +1. You know, it's like, oh man, that's the toughest monster in the whole dungeon, and we killed him easily. He never hit my character. So,
Yeah,
what about you?
They used a lot of the basic monsters: goblins, hobgoblins, orcs, owlbear, bugbear, maybe an ogre or two, and then the minotaur that Tim pointed out. But I just remember back in those days, hobgoblins. Hobgoblins were like the thing before orcs. Orcs became the thing to go to later on, and
It's a go-to villain
in the movies, and Hobbit and all that stuff. But I just remember back in those days, it seemed like the hobgoblin was the
because they're on the cover here.
Yes.
You know, the hobgoblin's on the cover, and their armor is very similar to each other. It's like their hierarchy was like, hey, we have to look alike, we have to be militaristic, and they weren't a one-hit dice; they were a one-hit dice +1. So they got an extra hit point. So an orc would have 8, they could have 9 just for a regular orc, or compared to a regular. So yeah, I had a lot of fun in this module. I've converted it to 2nd edition, took parts of it for 5th edition. Never played enough 3E, and I think we just took our 1E characters through there too at times, but I never played 4th edition, which is kind of sad.
You look at the artwork back then, and we've come a long ways in artwork now for Dungeons and Dragons.
Probably, yeah. Oh, by far, artwork even in comics is the same way. It has progressed so the detail in it is so much better. But then again, though you look at this old stuff and you appreciate it because it takes you back to that time in your life when there was no stress of, oh, I got a mortgage, or oh, the wife's pregnant, or you got a girlfriend on the side. Well, that's really a problem if you got that problem. But it just takes you back to a time in your life when things were good or they were better for you.
Yeah, even when we start getting the comics in the early '90s,
Right.
Looking at knowing how comics used to be, and then looking at this McFarlane guy doing Spider-Man, and looking at the way he started setting it up. Oh, this is the cool new way. And
Yeah, McFarlane was to me was groundbreaking his style of drawing. I mean, I liked my favorite overall. Oh man, I'm having a senior moment here. God, I'll remember his name. Let's move on. But yeah, McFarlane was groundbreaking, and compared to some of the other artists at the time, it was like the thing to have in the '90s. McFarlane art was awesome. So yeah, but then I couldn't stand Liefeld though. I mean, he may be a nice guy. I mean, but he could not draw feet, and he put pouches on everything. Everybody had pouches all over him. It was like I used to make a joke with Len. We called this a new superhero. Let's call him Pouch Man with no feet. A guy with pouches all over him, and you didn't see his feet ever.
something else to remember about that module for me is all the gold and the treasure they gave you. It's like ungodly amounts of treasure it gave you.
How would you carry it? Right, encumbrance.
Yeah.
And there's a picture in here that kind of puts that into perspective. I think it's this book. It talks about treasure or carry. There's a picture of a guy carrying a sack full of coins, or maybe it's in the module itself. I don't remember, and the coins are dropping all over the floor or the ground. I don't remember, but it's in the 1st edition or the basic set. Man, this thing is beat.
it's just sure nice that most DMs don't. If he just gives you the gold, and you're just like, okay, automatically you tally it up, and it's there, regardless how heavy it is, because how else are you supposed to get out unless you got a bag of holding or something?
Everybody's got a bag of holding nowadays too.
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing you give the party. Give them a bag of holding
Yeah,
so they can
I
carry
don't
it
worry
all.
about this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe it's in the basic book. I don't see it in here, but yeah. So I would just like to bring out. This was a very groundbreaking thing for my friend and I, Rob here. One of the things that I did not like about this book was it only went to level 3. And luckily you had the expert book that we could progress up at least to 12th level. But when you got to 12th, it was like, what do we do? The companion set wasn't due out for at least, I think, 4 more years. I mean, it came out in the later half of the 80s. I think around 87, 88, maybe 89. I just remember I was either late in high school or out at the time.
But
Yeah, this picture right here of the guy carrying the bag and it's leaking coins
Yeah.
out. It's like, yeah, that's what this module's about, is getting a lot of treasure and not being able to move in it.
Yeah, they already had AD&D
Out.
first
Yes.
edition, so you can transfer over to that.
So we took our characters, we had each had 4 characters at least. We transferred them over to first edition AD&D. Took the amount of experience points they got and moved them over to the corresponding level that they would have in first edition. And
Of course,
we were both fighters. Our main characters were both fighters, Hawk the Slayer and Arak. And you had picked to go with the Cavalier, and I stuck as a straight fighter. And I was always kind of upset, man, his character gets more attacks than I do. That sucks. But I stuck with a straight fighter, and man, we will talk about this at a later date, but the Fiend Folio fiasco, as I call it. It's where you and I both went through the Fiend Folio with our main fighter, and we challenged all the gods one at a time and fought them, and then rolled the treasure.
Sitting at home, I sat at home and do it. He was sitting here at home and doing it. Just on our time we weren't playing or together.
Yeah, it's like we beat. I think it was quite a fun time, but we'll talk more about that later. I don't know how many other people would have done such things. I mean, it's kids. I mean,
Yeah, we were early '80s.
We're young adolescent kids that
didn't know any better.
Right. But this was a groundbreaking thing for the two of us in our day, learning to play D&D. We're going to talk, I think, in our next session, we're going to talk about the new Candlekeep Adventures book. And then in a couple weeks, we're going to talk to a guy by the name of Andrew Webb. He makes his own dice and potions. I'm not going to show you any of this stuff, but it's really nice. He's got a website called Spider's Parlor. I think it's on Facebook. I think it's got a store on Facebook called Spider's Parlor. But he has some really nice stuff. And I met him at a con a year and a half ago. September or August 2019. And him and his friend were there, and they were set up at a table across from me.
Oh, that's Elkhart Comic Con.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were selling dice, and I had to pick up a few things because it was just nice looking. But he's got molds, and he pours his own resin, different colors. I think he puts stuff in them, but it's just really cool stuff, and I want to share it with everybody. Because there are some people that just collect those shiny math rocks. So that's what we're looking at for upcoming shows. You got anything else you want to add tonight about this set?
No, just something else I want to talk about the loot. You can
Loot?
go through the keep on the board edge. You're coming out +1 this. There's tons of +1. Basically your party's got to be outfitted. Everyone's gonna have a +1 something, if not armor, weapons, and what such.
Yeah, there's like plate mail
Crazy.
+1, shields +1. There's a sword +2 in here.
Yeah.
Which was like, oh my god, that was so much better than a +1 sword because it's 2. 2 just sounds better than 1. And you get that. You have, I think there's like a couple rings in there, and lots of other cool stuff. Spears +1 if you want to. The Minotaur had a spear +1. and there was some other cool stuff, but it's like it could really have an OP party right off the bat. And I noticed like B3 didn't have as much treasure by far. Even though I have a copy of Into the Borderlands, which has Search of the Unknown in it, it has the old school versions. It's got the first edition printing of this module and the second edition printing, which is some of the artwork changes, but it also has the In Search of the Unknown, and then it has some newer stuff set for 5th edition, some little bit more stuff, you know. Lost City, went through that as a kid, and with Zargon at the end was like, we couldn't figure out at the time. It was like, let me pull this out of here. We were confused. As kids, we did not know what this meant. When you get to Zargon, if I pull this up, I'll find him here in a minute. The Goblin Caves. Temple of Zargon. His attacks, he had these arms. He had, I think, like 8 arms that flailed around, and he had this big horn, which reminded me of the Conan the Destroyer movie, where they had to kill the Dargon at the end. But Zargon had some attack. It's in here in the new monsters area, I think. But it was just, it was cool because he got like 8 attacks, and it was like 1d8 times 8. And Terry, the DM, thought he had to roll for every time that we were hit, that it would be 1d8 times 8. So you could have anywhere from 8 to 64 points of damage per hit, and he got 8 of these. Or was it 12? Or however many arms he had. And then he was like, I know he was flubbing some rolls behind the screen at the time, because, and then I'm like, after I read it, I'm like, no, man, that's 1-8. That's for each tentacle attack, because he's got like 8 or 12. And it was like, man, there's no way this monster could be that powerful. But it was so cool, just all the stuff that they threw in there. And we killed all the cultists, every one of them. We did not try to befriend any of them. We killed them all. Just, that was more experience and more gold.
Yeah, keeping it Borderlands, it had, there's several different editions where they redid it. The 4th edition that they redid it. 5th edition, they did one, it's a Hackmaster version. They called it Little Keep on the Borderlands.
Little Keep on the Borderlands?
Yeah, so Hackmaster was it. So
you had some several House on the Prairie type
That's what I was thinking, but I said you had a couple different third party, redoing it.
Right.
Also, they keep on the Borderlands. A Season of Serpents was a 4th edition, and setting in Greyhawk, where this doesn't have any particular setting of anywhere. Where like Search of the Unknown,
I think you find this later when you get to the Expert Edition. I think it's in the Grand Duchy of the Karmikios.
Yeah, they can pop up, but some of the stuff is also considered in a Mysteria setting.
Okay.
So yeah, some of the stuff never had a real setting where it was, but.
I always kind of assumed that it was like the other side of the tracks of the AD&D world.
Now, 2nd edition, they did Return to the Keep on the Borderlands, but they set it in Greyhawk.
I may have that. I don't know. I mean, I got so many modules that I'll look through them like, oh, I have this. I didn't know I had that. It's terrible, But if you can see from last episode, our shelving is different. I had 3 shelves fall this week, and I was really happy. The only thing that got messed up was my Ghost of Saltmarsh, a little rip at the top. Other than that, I was quite happy, so we got some different shelves in here. I was really worried about my Icewind Dale Rime the Frost Maiden that Salvatore signed for me. But it was safe. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely could have had a lot more damage.
Yeah.
Impacting your huge investment here.
Right. I mean, not all of them. I mean, there's some of them that were like library finds. Like this one come from a library. Why a library would have stuff like this, I don't know. But and some of it was show pickups from shows, doing a show. Somebody go, oh, you buy D&D stuff? I'm like, yeah.
Somebody probably donated it to the library. Some mom or parent, and after the kid moved away.
We don't want this satanic stuff in our house. Right.
Right.
I think we should wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. Give us a like, subscribe if you would, and tell your friends. And we will talk to you next time.
Next week.
All right. Bye.